Shattered by Brony Numo. Chapter 9. Applejack watched with growing concern as Rainbow Dash's face briefly registered surprise, descended through shades of confusion and worry before finally settling into a trace of faint anger. Seriously, AJ, you want to talk about this? Now! For a moment, Applejack's jaw fell slack and closed again uselessly. Her mouth felt dry. The right words just weren't forming in her mind's eye. I'm just worried about you, Sugar Cube. I thought you might need some pony to talk with. You thought? And with everything else happening now, you thought you could just... Rainbow Dash's head fell to her hooves. She shook like a leaf blowing back and forth upon a branch. You can't bring that up. Not now. Applejack cringed. I know it don't seem like the proper time. What proper time? How can there be a proper time after everything that's happened? How did you even think I'd ever want to talk about... Ah! Dear Celestia, I can't even say it. Applejack felt taken aback. Rainbow Dash's cold stare seemed like a sudden brick wall thrown up before her. She couldn't move forward. She gritted her teeth and spoke again. I know this is important, and I know you can't put off thinking about it. I just want you to know, I'm here to help. Well, that's funny, because I don't want to talk about it. Rainbow Dash rolled over with a huff, letting her head sink back into her pillow and looking decidedly anywhere that wasn't at her best friend. Come on, Sugar Cube. You've been making so much progress. You spoke with me and Twilight a whole long time yesterday, and I heard you were talking with the rest of the girls almost all day today. I really think talking helps. Rainbow Dash remained silent, instead pulling her sheets up closer around her chest. Applejack frowned and stepped closer. But I know you haven't told the other girls yet, so I want to let you know. I'm here for you. I'm all ears. Rainbow Dash grumbled, her voice muffled by the pillow. I already told you, I don't want to talk about it. Please, Rainbow. Rainbow Dash rolled back over and sat up, coming to rest with her forelegs just on the edge of the hospital bed. She glared hard at her friend. Applejack staggered backwards, caught off guard by the sudden display. Let it go, Applejack. I'm not telling you again. As if a spark leapt forth in her mind, Applejack recovered her composure and jumped forward to meet the challenging gaze, her nose mere inches from Rainbow Dash's. Her fiery retort died on her lips, though smothered to bare embers by the sudden crushing weight of everything that had happened the previous few days. Applejack shrank back and took a deep breath. She suddenly felt very tired. Arguing with Rainbow Dash had always come so easily to her. Even as the best of friends, their back-and-forth banter seemed the most natural thing possible. But as she stared up at Rainbow Dash now, at the pain and hurt and fear in her eyes, a pit opened in her stomach, and she could feel nothing but emptiness and rising shame at being so quick to jump to confrontation. Applejack's face softened, and she waited for Rainbow's to do the same. When the Pegasus only retained her defensive glare, Applejack sighed. Look, Rainbow, I'm not going to fight with you. I just want to talk, to help you, that's all. I don't want your help. Please, Sugar Cube, you're my friend, and I care about you. Rainbow Dash only kept her icy demeanour. Well, if you were a good friend, you'd leave me be like every pony else. Her voice cracked on her last word. I don't think so. I think friends are supposed to be there for each other when one of them's hurting. Applejack took a firm stance and looked back at Rainbow Dash, her green eyes calm and soothing. She only received a continued cold stare in response. I ain't leaving, Dash. Well, I don't want to see you, Rainbow Dash huffed as she sank back into her pillows, drawing one up over her head and rolling so her back faced Applejack once more. The country mare frowned. Come on now, Dash. I know that ain't the truth. The hospital room descended into heavy silence. Applejack frowned, half expecting Rainbow Dash to continue telling her off. Still, she refused to leave, and the Pegasus said nothing. After a few prolonged moments, Applejack furrowed her brow in mounting worry. Rainbow? You alright? Still, the quiet rain and pervasive overhanging curtain disturbed only by soft sounds of breathing and something else. Something that sounded like Rainbow Dash? Sugar Cube? Are you crying? A subdued sniffle. No, I'm fine. A prolonged gasp and a choked sob all echoed in the still air, and Applejack's face sank. She rushed to her friend's bedside, reaching out to lay a comforting hoof over her, but the Pegasus shied away. It's okay, Rainbow. I'm here for you, remember? No, go away. I'm fine. I'm sorry, Sugar Cube. Applejack reached out and wrapped her forelegs around the mare's neck. Against only weak protests, broken intermittently by sobs. I'm here. It's okay. No, it's not okay. Shh, Applejack cooed. Gently, she rolled the Pegasus over and tightened her hug. The other mare made no move to pull away, yet no reciprocating gesture either. Her sobs, unabated now, echoed through the room. The fur around her eyes was matted with the excess moisture that still brimmed beneath glassy magenta orbs. She shook her head again and again, meekly submitting to Applejack's embrace. The earth pony stroked her friend's mane absently, more out of habit than anything else, her mind drifting back to countless late nights spent consoling a much younger filly. Her parents too quickly taken away, her cutie mark too long in coming, her little heart too broken for the solace of any pony but a big sister to fix. Applejack held Rainbow Dash even tighter. It's okay, baby girl. Don't cry. Don't cry. You don't understand, Applejack. It's not okay. It'll never be okay again. Don't say that, Dash. Applejack nuzzled her friend lightly. I know everything will be right as rain in the end. Rainbow Dash shook her head. No, you don't, AJ. You don't. You can't know that. No pony can. I'm sure of it. Nothing will ever be the same again. We'll make it better. You just don't understand, AJ. Everything's gone. Rainbow Dash tried to sit up, but found her way barred by a strong foreleg. She glanced over at Applejack, ready to protest, but broke down again when faced with the other mare's stern look. Rainbow Dash shook her head, breathing hard in a fruitless attempt to control her tears. How could you possibly understand? Applejack moved the hoof from the Pegasus's chest to dab beneath her eyes. I know you're hurting, Dash, and I want to help. Please, just let me help you. Rainbow Dash settled back into her pillows and her friend's grasp, her eyes bleary and exhausted. You can't help. I'm willing to try. No pony can help. Not now. Don't talk like that, Applejack whispered, her gaze hard yet comforting in her own way. Every pony's helping you the best we can. You're never alone, Rainbow Dash. I'm here for you, and so is Twilight, and Rarity, Fluttershy and Pinkie Pie, and so many other ponies. We love you, Rainbow. Never forget that. Rainbow Dash just lay still, inattentive, her weary head still shaking, though her sobs were fewer and further between. Drawing courage around her, she wiped her eyes and turned to face her friend. You still don't get it, AJ, she spoke slowly, her words hollow. Everything, the Wonderbolts, all my dreams, everything I've worked for and fought for, it's gone. It's all gone, just like that, and it's my fault. Applejack snapped up with a start, jumping up beside her friend. A sudden horror spread upon her face. No, Rainbow, you mustn't say that. This ain't your fault. None of this is your fault. We're having fun. We were drinking. Oh, Celestia, we drank too much. All of us. And then he kissed me. He kissed me and it felt good. We were so drunk, I didn't even try to stop him. Rainbow, please stop. I don't even like stallions. You already know that. You wanted me to talk about that before, right? So yeah, I'm a filly fooler. And I shouldn't like stallions, but something was wrong. He was kissing me and I liked it. I don't know why. There was something wrong with me. I was so drunk. I kissed him back. Something wrong. I don't even know. What he did was horrible, Dash. Disgusting and horrible. Ain't none of this your fault. Now you hear? I didn't stop him. I couldn't stop him. He took me upstairs and I didn't have a clue what was happening. Applejack studied her best friend's face as she, distant and unblinking, stared blankly up at the ceiling. Rainbow's countenance descending into a quiet solemnity. The streaks of old tears on her cheeks left dry. Applejack closed her eyes. She found fresh ones there. The mare bowed her head, allowing the silence wash over them like a rising tide. After some minutes, Rainbow Dash rolled back over to glance at Applejack, her eyes down, her chin resting on the edge of the bed. Hey, AJ, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gotten so mad at you before. It's just... that's something really personal for me. And to hear you ask about it like that, it scared me. Applejack shook her head weakly. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, Sugar Cube. It's just hard. I don't even know where to start. It's all right. You don't have to say anything. I shouldn't have pressured you. No, it's important like you said it was. You were right. I don't really need to know anymore, especially if you don't feel comfortable. You don't have to prove anything to me, Dash. AJ, you deserve to know. You of all ponies do. It's just... Rainbow Dash sighed, turning back towards the ceiling. What can I say? Where do I start? Whatever you couldn't say to Twilight or the others, whatever you need to say, you don't need to hide your secret from me. I know that. It's still so hard. Start with how you feel then. The Pegasus was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, AJ. I feel like... Hey, this is going to sound silly, but do you think you could sit up here with me? Applejack gave a slight grin, agreeing without hesitation. Sure thing, Sugar Cube. Deftly, she eased herself gently up into the bed beside Rainbow Dash as the other mare scooted away to make room for her companion. Better? Yeah. Lots, actually. Rainbow Dash sighed, taking up one of Applejack's hooves in her own. She held it tight against her chest. I guess I feel betrayed. Really. I mean, he was one of my heroes, AJ. I looked up to him. He danced with me at that wedding. Everything. He was my hero. And he hurt me. Applejack cringed. I'm sorry. You don't have to. I feel like... Oh, how can I even say it? It just sounds so stupid. You're going to think I'm so... No, Rainbow. I promise. I'll understand whatever it is. It's... I don't know. You might say... I've been waiting for a while now. For the right mare to come along. I guess I've been saving myself for that pony, and now it's like he took all that away. I feel like no mare will ever want to be with me now. And because of him, I'll never find any pony or be able to stay with her or anything. And, oh, bless you. I don't even know why I'm thinking about this. Rainbow Dash buried her face in her hooves and let loose an exasperated wail. She looked up bleary-eyed and confused. I feel like I'm tainted now, or soiled, or whatever, and no mare will ever want me. And I don't know why I'm worried about that. I just am. I'm so confused. I've never even thought about this before, and now I don't even know. What's wrong with me, AJ? I don't understand. Applejack was silent for a long while. Rainbow Dash's breath had caught in her throat. To her, each second seemed so many more. Time flowed like molasses. Finally her friend seemed to find her voice. Sugar Cube, I don't really know what to say. Applejack fidgeted in her place. Rainbow Dash nodded, eager to drop the subject. Don't bother. It was stupid anyway. She gave a short, dry titter. No, Dash. Applejack shook her head vigorously. It ain't stupid. I'm just not the best at this. She glanced into her friend's eyes and felt a knot tighten in her stomach. It wrenched her insides to see the pain, the confusion, the lost glimmer in there. It felt like there was nothing she could say that would ever make it better. But she knew she had to try. Rainbow, you know you're a great girl. You're brave, and you're one of the strongest ponies I know. Not anymore, Rainbow muttered glumly, squeezing her companion's hoof tighter against her chest. Oh, don't say that. Applejack looked away, struggling to find the right words. I'm serious. I know it might sound strange coming from me and all, but I know there's some pony out there for you. Dash, someday you're going to find that special mare, and she's going to make you so happy. I'm sure of it, and you know, I wouldn't lie to you. You got to believe me, Rainbow Dash. Everything seems bad right now, but it'll get better. I know it will. She looked back over at the mare. Rainbow Dash stared right back at her, her eyes glistening but warm somehow. And she was smiling, or at least trying to, as if she wanted to do her best to show her friend she understood. Thanks, AJ. You know that means a lot. I know. I may not be the best with all this, with relationships or love and stuff, but I want you to know, if you're ever having problems or feeling like this again, or you do think you found a nice mare, well, you can come talk with me about it. I'm here for you, RD. Rainbow Dash gave Applejack's hoof an affectionate squeeze, albeit quick, and blushed. Thanks, AJ. No problem, Sugar Cube. The pair fell silent for a while more, the incessant tick of a distant clock slowly counting down the time left for visitors. And Applejack knew she hadn't yet said what she had come to say. Hey, AJ? Why did you come? I told you, because I was worried and I care about you. No, I mean, why did you come here? Just to ask about me? Me? Liking mares? Applejack added, sensing her friend's discomfort. Rainbow only nodded weakly. Yeah, that. I know you were worried about me and everything else, but why'd you ask about that? I suppose it's 'cause I know how hard you try to keep it all a secret, Sugar Cube. Applejack took a deep breath, suddenly feeling as if her throat were about to seize up. And secrets, well, secrets just have a way of eating you up from the inside, and I wanted you to have somebody to just let everything out to. I guess you're right. I think I needed that. But that's not everything. Though, there's something else too. Rainbow Dash looked pensive for a moment. Yeah? I think you should know. How do I say this? I think it's time the other girls knew. Applejack trailed off, her words failing her. Her companion suddenly looked very pale. I don't mean you need to just let your secret all out or anything. I just think the girls deserve to know now. Applejack cringed. That sounded a whole lot better in her head. Rainbow Dash, all the blood having rushed from her face, sat bolt upright, her eyes wide and her breath shallow. She closed her eyes and shook her head back and forth repeatedly. But I don't... Her words stumbled off her tongue, as if each coherent thought had sputtered and died upon reaching the brink of utterance. No, I can't. She took a slow, ratcheting breath, seeming to relax slightly as she did so. I've only ever told you and my parents, and you know how well that went. Her voice rose precipitously and cracked in her distress. Her eyes so wide they seemed ready to jump from their place. Listen, Dash, I know your ma and pa gave you a hard time when you told them, but do you really think the girls would do that to you? It's not just that, AJ. They didn't just give me a hard time about it. They rejected me. They ignored me and said I was being delusional. I, I can't even talk about what they did. I understand what they did was awful, Rainbow. I know it hurts, especially with everything else that's been happening. Lately, it all just hurts. But I really think it might help you to tell the girls your secret. I trusted them, AJ. I trusted my parents. I really loved them, and they still hurt me. I trusted the Wonderbolts and Soarin', and he still hurt me. How can I trust any pony else ever again? How can I tell them if I can't even trust any pony? Well, how could you trust me then, Dash? Why did you tell me all those years ago and no pony else? I had only just met you a few days before. What made you so sure I wouldn't turn out like your parents did? What made you take the risk? Rainbow Dash fell silent once more, just a bit of the colour returning to her face. I thought you would just like me. I thought you might be the same. I was wrong though, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Applejack's gaze softened and she shook her head wistfully. Ain't nothing to apologise for, Rainbow. Every pony makes mistakes, and I suppose I should have taken that as a compliment. But do you see what I'm trying to say, Rainbow? You barely even knew me, yet you told me just like it was the easiest thing in the world. And I know you can do the same with our friends, especially since you've known them so long now. Hey, I'm surprised you haven't told Fluttershy, considering how far back you go. Rainbow Dash nodded, finally settling down back into her bed to stare at the ceiling again. When I ran away from home, I sort of left her there at the academy. Then when she came to Ponyville for the longest time, I just couldn't bear to bring it up. She reminded me too much of Cloudsdale, of home, of my parents. I understand, but ain't everything different now? I mean, Fluttershy, Twilight, Pinkie Pie and Rarity, they're your best friends. And I know for a fact they'd be more than accepting of you, and I think you know that too. Rainbow Dash was quiet for a moment. It's not just that. I know they'd still love me, but it's still just so hard to say. I'll help you. You know I will. What am I supposed to even say? Hi girls, thanks for everything you've done for me. Oh, by the way, just so you know, I'm a filly fooler. And I just didn't tell you all these years we've been friends because I was too scared. It sounds ridiculous, AJ. I can't tell them that, not now. Every pony will think I'm crazy. I don't think you're crazy, Dash. I just think you've been hurt and now you're trying to make sense of one big old mess. And you just need some help. We all want to help you, Dash. You just need to help us help you. It isn't that easy. I think you'll find it's a whole lot easier than you think if you just give it a shot. Rainbow Dash looked ready to argue further but fell back again. I don't know, AJ. I don't know. Promise me you'll at least think about it. Sleep on it. Just promise me that. Yeah. Applejack nodded once, then rolled out of the bed, landing neatly on her hooves. Rainbow Dash sat up, alarm etched into her gaze. Where are you going? I gotta leave, Dash. Visiting hours are almost up. But I don't want you to go. Applejack felt a pang of guilt attack her chest. She inhaled deeply. I'm afraid I don't have much of a choice. Before the bed-bound Pegasus could respond, there came a tapping at the door. Applejack strode over to open it. Dr. Stable appeared in the dim hallway, and he bowed his head graciously to her. Evening, Miss Applejack. Rainbow Dash, I'm sure you're both aware visiting hours are now over. Please say she can stay. Rainbow Dash stared at the unicorn, a pleading look in her eyes. I don't want to be alone. Not again. Not tonight. Please let her stay. I'm terribly sorry, Miss Dash, but rules are rules. Applejack looked back at her friend, then up at the doctor. Do you think you could make an exception just this once? The doctor looked apprehensively between the two mares before sighing. Very well. I suppose there's no harm in it. Applejack smiled, and Rainbow Dash gave a contented sigh that turned into a yawn halfway through. I suppose there's no point to my remaining here much longer then. A good night to you both. Applejack nodded. Thank you kindly, Doctor. It sure means a lot to Rainbow. Yes. Oh, before I forget, Miss Dash, Redheart and I have decided that in the morning you'll be well enough to move from the intensive care unit into the recovery wing of the hospital. Just thought I'd let you know before, Hoof. It means you'll be able to visit with more than 2 friends at a time. But we'll need you ready to move by morning, so get some good sleep, okay? Rainbow Dash nodded, her eyes already drooping. Wonderful. If you'll excuse me then, ladies, I have a few other patients to see tonight. Casting a quick spell, he turned out the lights, so only the pale blue glow of the evening moon lit the room. Seemingly satisfied, he strode away, letting the door shut softly behind him. Applejack turned away and smiled at her friend before trotting over to the couch that occupied one corner of the room. She stopped short of it, however, and on a whim walked back over to Rainbow's bed. The Pegasus's eyes were already closed. Applejack leaned over and planted a light kiss on the mare's cheek. Good night, Sugar Cube. Finally feeling as if her legs were about to give out, she returned to her couch and flopped unceremoniously into it, closing her eyes immediately. Rainbow Dash smiled wide. Good night, AJ. Thanks. She yawned. Thanks for being my best friend. Particles of dust swirled in early morning sunlight, having late been stirred from long unused shelves by the removal of several thick ancient tomes on equestrian lore. Rarity trotted from Golden Oak's library's kitchen, a tray with a steaming pot of tea and several cups and saucers suspended before her. Entering the library's main room, she trotted over to her lavender companion, who had fallen seemingly asleep, slumped over a particularly heavy text propped open adjacent to the smoking stub of a candle long since burned out. My, a long night it's been, hasn't it, Twilight Sparkle? The mare stirred suddenly, jerking her head up from the book. A few pages lifted with her, stuck against her cheek before separating with a faint noise and slipping back down. She blinked blearily up at the alabaster unicorn leaning over her. I'm fine, Rarity. This is fine. Darling, when I told you to get some sleep, this is not exactly what I had in mind. The unicorn poured a quick cup of tea and floated it gently down to her companion. Twilight Sparkle nodded in half recognition. In fact, this is almost the exact opposite. Twilight groaned, settling down her tea after a deep sip, and rubbed her temple. I tried, Rarity, but I couldn't. She shook her head, taking another gulp. With the trial and everything else, it's all happening so fast. I have to be ready. Rarity paused for a moment, sipping from her own teacup in a pensive silence as Twilight drained the last of her dregs and sat up groggily. Finally, the prim unicorn turned, casting a concerned eye over her friend. Yes, dear, I do understand, but Sorin was only arrested yesterday. The trial should still be a good while away. You do have time. Twilight sighed, her senses gradually returning to the normal level of alertness. I don't know, Rarity. I'm going up against real professional lawyers with years of experience way beyond me. All I have to go on are these books. What else am I supposed to do? I can't afford to waste any time. Well, darling, if you don't think you're up for it, why did you accept the offer? The mare blinked a few times. What? It's simple, darling. If you're feeling this overwhelmed now, you certainly must have been when Princess Celestia offered you the assignment. Twilight Sparkle shook her head. No, Celestia didn't want me to do this. I chose to. Rarity looked thrown for a briefest of instants before she shook herself, regaining an air of unflappability, and nodded. I see. Twilight continued speaking as if she hadn't noticed. I had to. There's no other way. You don't think the princess could have found a professional counsel suitable enough for Rainbow Dash? Again Twilight shook her head. And let one of those sharks pick her apart her life? Learn her deepest secrets? Dissecting such a traumatic experience like some cold tactician only out to earn a profit? turn a blind eye to her pain and suffering and present her case like a clinical study. We have no idea how some pony as hardened and aloof as they are might treat her. I can't risk that. She needs some pony who cares about her and knows her to represent her. I've got to do it. Rarity gave pause and after a few seconds nodded her agreement. Whatever you think is best, dear. I suppose I know sound judgment when I hear it, although I do worry about you, and I'm sure the others do as well. You must know that. Yeah, I think I do. A few more moments of uncomfortable empty silence passed between the two mares. Rarity observed Twilight's shifting countenance with interest and apprehension before sighing once more. She acquiesced to break the lull. And yet you still don't seem convinced of yourself. Twilight grimaced. That's because I'm not, Rarity. I'm still in over my depth, and even books aren't helping anymore. Rarity gently set herself down next to her friend. Twilight, I may not have the answers you're looking for, but let me tell you a story. Twilight, her curiosity pegged, sat up and gazed earnestly at her friend. I had barely received my cutie mark the first time my parents went on an extended vacation and left me in charge of Sweetie Belle. Now, back then, I had hardly any idea how to take care of my little sister. Like you, I felt overwhelmed, out of my own depth, and even angry with my mother and father from time to time. But I did my best. And I've taken care of Sweetie Belle numerous times since then. Although I grant I still have much to learn, I feel as if I've improved every time. But what does that have to do with... My point, Twilight Sparkle, is that we never know what we're capable of if we don't test our limits. I had to learn a lot of responsibility, and I'm still learning to be the best big sister I can be. Rarity daintily cleared her throat. And you, my dear, Twilight, are the most brilliant and talented unicorn I have ever had the pleasure of making acquaintances with. I am confident that we have yet to see your best, but in order to do so, you have to push your own limits. Don't be defined by what you think you cannot do, rather by what you strive to. Twilight could only blink at her friend. Rarity grinned sheepishly. My mother used to say that to me. Then a smile broke out on Twilight's face. Thanks, Rarity. I think you're... No, you are right. That was really helpful. Twilight gave her friend a quick hug. Rarity returned the gesture. I'm glad of it. Now, let's get to work, shall we?